Uncharted Drake's Fortune is the first step into one of the PlayStation's most beloved exclusive series. But when I was a kid, I was a die-hard Nintendo fanboy. If a game wasn't a colorful eye-popper on the GameCube or Wii, it was just another boring shooter to me. When I reached high school, I branched out a little to the Xboxes and went down an unhealthy obsession with achievement hunting. I'm glad those days are behind me, although the completionist attitude will never leave my brain. My gamerscore devotion meant I never expanded to the scope of PlayStations. That was just never a household console under my roof. My first PlayStation was a PS4, and I bought my PS4 in 2020, the year the PS5 came out. Needless to say, I am very late to the party, but better late than never. It's time to see what one of the most iconic Sony game franchises had at its humble beginnings. Before we get into the thick of it, I'm going to throw out a spoiler warning for anyone who may care. It's a game from 2007, and knowing the plot ahead of time doesn't do much of anything to alter the overall experience, but if you want to play through blind to the plot someday, by all means, here's my warning. I'm essentially going to be recapping everything as I go. This seems like a small thing, but I can't say how grateful I am that Uncharted lets you push one button to toggle subtitles on at the very beginning of the game. Now, we cut to our main characters, Nathan Drake, henceforth known as Nate, and Elena Fisher, henceforth known as Elena Fisher, who are out at sea fishing out an ancient coffin. Nate is the main character of the game and who will be controlling all throughout. He's an awkward mix of a handsome, suave man and a straight-up dork sometimes. You grow to love him very quickly. The coffin belongs to his long-past ancestor, Sir Francis Drake. Elena is a news reporter tagging along with Nate for her next big scoop, but at the same time, she's completely skeptical of the facts and doesn't initially buy into Nate's lineage. Also, I gotta say, I am playing the remastered version of this game on the Nathan Drake collection, and god damn! These are some pretty fine graphics. The facial animations and how well characters can show expression is phenomenal. Plot twist. Turns out the coffin is empty except for Sir Francis's personal journal. Elena wants a peek at the pages, but Nate is like, oh hell no, family secrets babe. Then Elena is like, hey, you signed a contract. I get to see everything. This leads to a bit of a confrontation, but it's very short-lived as Nate steps away and calls for backup. Turns out the two were followed by pirates, not like the arg booty kind of pirates, no, more like the look at me, I am the captain now kind of pirates. So why not call the authorities?
That'd be a great idea, but we don't exactly have a permit to be here.
What?
Yeah, so unless you want to end up in a Panamanian jail, we should probably handle this ourselves.
Well, what's worse?
You obviously haven't been in a Panamanian jail.
Well, I think Nate puts it best in one of my favorite lines in this game. So, time to whip out a couple pistols and handle business ourselves. Nate has clearly been down this road before. Elena is regretting her life choices. Now we get to the gameplay. Uncharted is a pretty straightforward third-person shooter. You get to carry a primary weapon like a rifle or a shotgun, a sidearm, and a handful of grenades. Or at least eventually you get all that. We're confined to just a handgun in the starting sequence. You can duck behind cover, you got a couple melee combo options, you can mash a light attack 5 times, which you'll probably never bother using, because there's a drastically more helpful brutal combo, where you alternate button presses in a powerful 3-hit combo. An enemy killed by a brutal combo drops twice as much ammo, which is a perfect gameplay balance idea. If you're swinging at fools with your fists, it could be because you're low on ammo. So rewarding extra ammo in a melee kill just makes sense. All of this is taught in very non-intrusive tutorials that pop up long enough to read, but don't overstay their welcome and they don't halt the game. I really appreciate a game with simple tutorials. After holding off for a couple minutes, Nate's backup barnstorms in on a biplane to save the day. Perfect timing because Nate and Elena's vessel was a brutal victim of rocket launcher syndrome. Here we meet Victor Sullivan, henceforth known as Sully. He's a longtime companion to Nate's throughout all these crazy adventures. He's a fun old guy, has a bit of a temper, loves to go off on his tangents. By the way, the voice acting is a perfect match to accompany the great character animation.
The beautiful and talented Elena Fisher.
Flattery will get you screen time.
Yeah, I'm more of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy. Victor Sullivan.
For Christ's sakes.
Huge kudos to the voice actors because conversations between these characters do a great job at feeling organic. The pitch and inflections are so natural, it helps sell the interest, even in the most actionless scenes. While docked at shore, Nate catches Sully up on the history of what's going on. So Sir Francis ransacked the Spanish fleet and took all their shit. Maps, information, everything was taken and logged in that journal Nate now has. It must have been damn good info too, because when Sir Francis returned to England, He was vowed to silence. The queen took all of his take and shit and was like, alright dude, you found some shit. If you or your men breathe a word of this to anyone, right to the gallows with you. Now I stand by this game's quality voice acting, but that doesn't mean the scripts they're reading from are always top notch.
Man only interested in the climax. He must be a real hit with the ladies.
Never had any complaints.
You'll see a few examples of low-hanging fruit humor. So, what was it that Sir Francis found that was so enticing? How about...
El goddamn Dorado.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, we're hunting for the fucking city of gold here. Unfortunately, the last page of the journal was torn out. On top of that, Sully points out the next problem. Elena. She's distracted on the phone during the guy's conversation, but Sully brings up a pretty good point. They are hot on the tracks of the most valuable treasure on Earth. They've already been gunned down by murderous pirates as it is, and they aren't looking to have the world's population of bandits hunting them down as well. If you want to keep a secret, well, secret, a news reporter is probably the last companion you want to tag along. So they ditch her. Now it's just Nate and Sully strolling through the jungle. I love how the jungle looks. It's vibrant, lush, I can see the wet.
I ever tell you about the time I pawned a phony 16th century Santa off on Pablo Escobar?
Holy shit, what the hell is wrong with you? Nate and Sully happen upon where El Dorado should be, but there's nothing there. So they decide to wander another, like, I don't know, 100 yards, and they find a temple. So what was the point of that last cutscene? I have no idea. This is where Uncharted now introduces its next major gameplay mechanic, climbing. It's pretty inoffensive here, but there will be times I'll talk about later where it stands out a lot more. For better and worse. Holy shit, Spider-Man coincidentally finished installing just as Nate was wall climbing? Is Nate Spider-Man? No. Anyways, I busted a hole in the earth and to enter the temple. Turns out the temple was picked clean of any valuables long ago by the Spaniards, and Sully ain't having it.
What the hell, Sully?
Nate, I'm not looking for a lousy piece of tin. I'm up to my eyeballs in debt.
Yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too, I reckon.
That reporter? I saw the way you were eyeing her.
Here's our first hint at a potential Nate and Elena romance.
Chance with her the second we ditched her on that dock.
Oh yeah, huh? I guess women aren't too keen about being ditched on islands. I got a lot to learn. Really? A red explosive barrel in an ancient temple. I know it could be gunpowder, which has existed a long-ass time now, but that doesn't make this moment feel any less 2000s video game tropey.
Here, let me do that.
Well now, why the hell did I have to mash triangle if Sully was gonna do this for me anyways? This part is pretty simple to figure out, but for some reason I really love how you progress by shooting a lit lantern hanging up above, and it knocks a few flaming embers down onto the wood obstacles below to burn it away. What a needlessly complicated, but at the same time lovely solution to a problem. Now see this climbing segment right here? Perfect example of where things can go wrong. I died a couple times here because something about the climbing feels over-restrictive when it comes to movement. It feels like Nate only lets me jump in the 4 primary directions. I don't know for certain if that's how climbing is technically designed, but it sure feels that way. This wall asks for movement in so many potential directions that it feels unresponsive, like I'm not quite jumping to where I actually want to go. To give credit where credit is due though, the game does a good job of making grabbable ledges stick out in the environment, so you know where the path is without making them blatantly nonsensical or overly out of place. And there's Ancient Explosive Barrel number 2. The next major game mechanic that I'm introduced to are the puzzles. Typically these are prompted by Nate recognizing symbols in the environment with symbols in the journal. This first one is just push the 4 symbols in the right order. In fact, none of the puzzles throughout the entire game are particularly brain-teasing, but I don't mind them. It's a nice way to break up the pacing a bit, and they don't pop up so frequently that they're a nuisance.
I'm really wet.
No shit, Nate. I didn't know swimming would cause you to be wet. Ah yes, more red barrels. This running sequence is great because it really encapsulates what Uncharted is best at. Over-the-top, Hollywood-esque action sequences that just get your blood pumping. Nate and Sully happen upon a room where a huge gold statue was, at one point, kept in the temple, supposedly worshipped by those of the past. So El Dorado wasn't a golden city, it was a massive statue. It might have been stolen 400 years ago, but the Spaniards left behind some convenient tracks to follow. The boys get out of the temple and happen upon a German U-boat, of all things. This turns into another big climbing segment, but this one is considerably less frustrating and more cinematic and fun to go through. I get into the sub, everyone's dead, I sorta figured, but they're also packed with doubloons. After reaching the captain's quarters, Nate happens upon the missing journal page and a map that may have the coordinates to the gold statue. Nate escapes the submarine, but after swimming to shore, he's met by some armed strangers. This is the main bad guy, Gabriel Roman, henceforth known as Roman.
Yeah, I know who you are, asshole.
Oh, you do know him? Shit, I guess there's some sort of history here. But this is the first game in the series, so hell if I'll ever know what it is. It turns out Sully told Roman about this El Dorado hunt, trying to save his own skin because Sully owes Roman a lot of money.
Does he always go on like this?
Take it easy, Navarro.
Oh, did you hear that? His name's Navarro, not Nameless Thug number 1. First hint that he might be important later. Anyways, Roman is tired of these wild goose chases and takes the map Nate found on the sub. And then he shoots Sully. And then the submarine explodes. How did that happen?
That's probably bad.
I couldn't tell you, but it makes for a great escape opportunity. While running through the jungle, we come across Elena again.
You went this way. I'll raise your head.
Oh yeah, they're gonna bang. You know what I hate about this part? The game prompts you to press circle, which makes you take cover. But at a quick glance, you might think that the game is teaching you how to do a stealth takedown, which you absolutely can do in this game. This would have been the perfect place to create a prompt to teach the player how to do a stealth takedown, instead of prompting you to take cover, which ironically actually makes you blow your cover and start a firefight. On top of that, this is one of only like 3 or 4 places in the game where you can even pull off a stealth kill effectively, so it's hardly worth remembering that it exists. Oh no, please, by all means, Elena, I love when you run out in front of me while I'm shooting a gun. We fight our way to a jeep and then biplane our way to the island where the treasure map leads. Unfortunately, we're met with anti-aircraft fire. Needless to say, these bad guys are a little stronger than some token thugs now. Plane's going down, Nate and Elena have to bail. Again, seriously good characterization in the voices and expression.
See you on the ground?
Right behind you.
Yeah. Okay.
This is another great, lovable dork Nate moment.
Counterfire. Pull the cord. How hard could that be? Oh crap!
The two end up separated again, having landed in different spots. Also, Nate left the map on the plane. The plane that crashed. In flames. Way to go, Nate. I'm sorry, why did I have to shoot the padlock here if the whole gate was weakened up here anyways? Now's probably a good time to mention my biggest gripe with the gameplay. Enemies tend to be bullet sponges in this game. I could put a good chunk of my rifle clip into a guy's torso and he walks it off. The only way to end a fight quick is by headshot, which is a fine option, but it shouldn't be such a superior one that popping a fool in the 10 ring feels worthless. This is so amplified on high difficulties, it is ridiculous. Yeah, I get the higher difficulty should make game hard. Like, no shit. But I'm in the boat that you can accomplish that in many more creative ways than just take more damage, deal less damage. It just makes the game hard and tedious at that point. Again, if you casually play on easy or normal, it's not too noticeable, maybe. And I'm not saying make fights as fast-paced as, say, Call of Duty. I'm just saying the enemy tankiness could have been tweaked down a good touch, and it may have gone a long way. Okay, me killing that bad guy straight up looked like Hollywood tomfoolery. I capped him in the face and he legit did an Olympic gainer off the waterfall like he was a stuntman. I love this shit. I mean, what do you even say to some over-the-top craziness like that? One beautiful romp through the jungle and a crapload of killing later, and we got the map back.
You won't be so lucky this time. Oh.
Ooh, watch your step. It'll be fine. This leads to one hell of a climbing journey up the outer walls of a cliffside fortress. And dear God, this made my stomach drop. Okay, fuck this part though. I'm an hour and a half into the game at this point, and suddenly a QuickTime event is thrown my way. I died because when I saw that a cutscene was starting, I set the controller down so I wouldn't accidentally skip it. But then surprise, push this button or get murked. QuickTime events should have been introduced way earlier into the game so that I could at least expect them to appear later on. Eventually I happen upon Elena and two dudes ready to blow her off the side of the fortress, but I rescue her just in time. Oh shit, that was humiliating. Eventually I happen upon Elena and two dudes ready to blow her off the side of the fortress, but I rescue her just in time. Only for Nate to take the brunt of the blast and get captured. Here we meet another new villain, Eddie Raja.
Eddie Raja.
Raja? I don't know.
I should have guessed.
Oh, you do know him. Swear to God, that's twice now. For being the first game in the series, they sure do leave out a lot of backstories. So Eddie bargains with Nate, says, hey, help me find the treasure or I'll kill you. But Nate calls the bluff. He's all like, well, kill me then and you won't have anyone to help you find the treasure. Eddie's not happy about this situation. Apparently his men are getting killed left and right on this island, trying to track down this treasure. The friendly banter gets cut short when Elena uses a jeep to rip an entire wall out of Nate's cell. This leads into a not so fun vehicle segment. It's essentially a turret section, gun down the pursuing thugs while Elena drives, but the rough terrain and constant movement makes aiming annoying, and a little rough if you get motion sickness easily. This part is so extremely unfair on the harder difficulties, it honestly boils down just to a crapshoot of luck. All seems hopeless when Nate and Elena get the Jeep stuck on a cliff edge just as Eddie catches up to them. So what better way to escape than to drive off a cliff edge? When Nate and Elena finally get a safe spot to chill, Elena shows Nate video of a customs house. This is a place that all ships had to check into, so it seemed pretty likely that there would be some kind of records of the golden statue passing through here. Nate notices a boat parked outside to use as an escape, and at this point is a really interesting twist to our main hero's motives. Elena has broken through her wall of fear and doubt that were looming over her at the start. Now she's so invested into uncovering this story and finding that treasure that she's risking life and limb to see it through to the end. Nate had the same ideology at the beginning, but now he's just straight up over this shit. He's been through too much and the adventure isn't worth the danger anymore. He wants to take that newly found boat and scram. This is an intriguing role reversal for both characters, and I love seeing how their journey through the course of the game openly shows their change in mentality. Whether it's time to cut their losses and escape, or persevere for the riches, all paths lead to that customs house anyways. Now I'm thrust into a jet ski segment, which, Lord help me, is worse than the Jeep segment we just dealt with. Now I have to pilot the vessel and fire off Elena's grenade launcher at a waterway full of red barrel obstacles. This means constantly having to stop my movement, align a shot, drive a short distance, stop my movement, align a shot. Eventually there's gunmen firing down during this process too, making the ordeal even more of a headache. This is not a fun time. This tower segment is another example of the climbing done wrong. There's just so many awkward angles to jump across. I died twice and I have no idea how I could have done anything differently. It just felt off. So we make it to the customs house and find records proving the statue came through here.
Gold statue. Weight 20 arrobas. That's over 500 pounds. That's gotta be it.
500 pounds? Dude, gold is heavy as shit. 500 pounds is only like roughly 18 bars of gold. Did you see the empty space the statue left behind when Nate and Sully were exploring the first temple? That thing was like 12 feet tall. That had to be like thousands of pounds. Also, 500 pounds of gold is only worth like, I don't know, $10 million? They've been talking up this statue like it'll make you unimaginably rich beyond any human's wildest dreams. Now don't get it twisted, 10 mil isn't exactly pocket change, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's filthy freaking rich either. It's like, yeah, you're kinda rich. Anyways, Nate and Elena get sidetracked almost as easily as I do, and talk about the ring Nate wears around his neck. It originally belonged to Sir Francis himself and got passed down to Nate over time. The ring actually had the coordinates to the empty coffin that kickstarted this whole adventure. You know, the sound design could have really used a second look over when it came to the grenade launcher enemies. I was hiding in cover to avoid, exploding, but the constant tinnitus from the grenades was not appreciated. Did it sell the realism? Sure. Does it fun? No. Nate and Elena split up, I guess? I mean, she claims she wants to get more footage, but she's kind of weird about it. I broke Nate. I broke Nate. Nate is moments away from performing a boat jacking when Elena catches up and stops him. Apparently, whatever she's got on her footage is urgent enough to sacrifice their quick escape method. She shows Nate the footage and Sully is alive. Not only that, he's walking side by side with Roman and the thugs. A little fishy for someone we saw get shot in the chest. Now the goal is to find Sully, but we don't know if it's for a rescue or a hardcore shakedown. If I'm being honest, this plot twist didn't hit me too hard. From the beginning of the game, I knew Sully had that important character vibe. You know what I mean? Like, there was no way he was just going to be killed off at the very beginning of the game. There were a couple points before now where I thought to myself, I wonder if this is when they'll reveal Sully's not dead. It was only a matter of time. While crossing a bridge, they get a good view of what little is left behind of this flooded town. Someone used a dangerously fun amount of gunpowder to blow a dam and flood the streets. While admiring the craft of demolition, Elena falls through the bridge and barely being saved in time by Nate. Now is the hardest choice of her life. The camera or, well, her life. And thus, all of the footage of the adventure she's captured up to this point is lost.
Oh, shit!
It's okay, Elena. My dad always gave me this life advice. Life is an oyster, till you fuck up the camera. I find myself in a second jet ski segment, and god damn it, this one sucks even worse than the last one. I still have to stop and go constantly to blow up red barrels, but also with the sickening motion of river rapids bobbing my jet ski up and down like a dinghy on a trampoline. We are at 0 out of 3 for vehicle segments that make me giddy inside.
We left those clowns in the dust ages ago. My God!
Oh, this guy has seen better days. The unusual thing isn't a dead body. Yeah, to be honest, we're quite used to those by now. But the punji spikes that pin-cushioned him were made from the parts of the plane that Nate and Elena crashed here in. So it's not like this is a 400-year-old trap that this silly fool wandered into. No, this is another hint that there's some more sinister forces at hand. And now we find Sully, trying to decipher these old rotten Spanish books. At least until our cover is blown by one of the guards. After a friendly massacre, Nate and Elena confront Sully on the shadiness going on here. Roman wants Sully dead, and Sully was just trying to buy some time by saying he was onto something big, which led to the shit show back at the submarine. So how did he survive getting shot?
You are not gonna believe this.
Sir Francis's journal stopped the bullet. Even Nate comments on how unrealistically lucky that shit is.
Thought this kind of thing only happened in the movies.
Sully managed to convince Roman that he could help them find the treasure, but Sully's been sending them on wild goose chases ever since. After finding a secret tunnel that Roman's men don't know about, Nate splits from the group to scout ahead. This is another fantastic dorky Nate moment.
Nate? Be careful.
Come on. I always am. Ah! I did not see that! Ah!
I'm a little bummed because the game from here on out is visually way more boring. I don't get to run through lush jungles and flooded cities anymore. Now I'm just running through dank caves and boring gray catacombs. Nate ends up eavesdropping on Eddie, Navarro, and Roman. Roman is yelling at Eddie like, dude, I can't believe Nate is taking down your entire army of thugs. Get your shit together. Eddie is like, it's not Nate, asshole. This shit's cursed, bro. So Roman is like, alright, dude, cut the crap. You're out of the deal. We're not sharing any of the gold with you. Apparently Navarro hired Eddie, and Roman is a dick to Navarro. Let's talk about Roman as a villain really quick. On one hand, he's a stereotypical crime boss and isn't particularly interesting in any way. On the other hand, he's very much an unlikable asshole, which is good for a bad guy because when you finally get the chance to deliver what's coming to them, it's oh so satisfying. I don't know what happened here. I'm gonna enter this window. Nah, just kidding. Alright, I'm going in. Nah, I tricked you. Seriously, for real though. Ah, got you again. Okay, Nate, get in the fucking window for Christ's sake. Nate discovers that Roman and Navarro found the actual treasure vault. The fake out Sully sent them on didn't work. And now we're back with Elena and Sully. And then we get split up from Sully. Dude, I don't know about these swinging lantern hitboxes. I mean, that's way too much of a stretch to say it hit me. I was not at all in the path of that swing. Nate and Elena happen upon the heart of the vault, and you'll never guess whose corpse they happen upon. Sir Francis Drake himself. Yeah, looks like he didn't make it to the treasure. Nate, in utter disappointment, leaves behind the hand-me-down ring. Elena takes a climb to the upper level of the room to access a hoist and give Nate an escape, which he'll need, because here comes Eddie and a henchman. They aren't the threat though, they're being chased, and this is where the big reveal of the game comes in. Wendigos. Yeah, well, kinda. I don't know what the hell else to call them. Curse demons? Alright, so there's so goddamn much to unpack here. When I first got to this point in the game, I was absolutely dumbfounded by these cursed creatures existing. I thought all along that Uncharted was a more realistically grounded series. Well, I mean not realistic like compared to real life, but at least like Hollywood realistic. Does that make sense? I mean, I didn't think it would have a supernatural element to it, so this plot twist kinda hit me hard. But as I go back and rewatch my recorded footage to make this video, I noticed something. I was a stupid fool. The writing was all over the goddamn walls and I just didn't read it. Look at all the times the cursed creature was hinted at up until this point.
Worshipping the damn thing. At least, I think they're people.
They can't even go outside to take a piss without an armed guard, and I have nothing to show for it!
Something's been here since the trap was sprung.
Something or someone.
It's not just Drake, god damn it! I'm telling you, this island is cursed!
Enough.
Fighting these things absolutely sucks, by the way. I can accept them into Uncharted lore, but not into the style of gameplay. This was meant to be a shooter game through and through, so having enemies jump around willy-nilly and dart right at you for close quarters combat does not mix well with how this was designed. And you can't melee them to get some breathing space either, like it's literally impossible. So obviously, with that opinion thrown out there, you can only imagine how much fun I had surviving against an entire horde of these things. Oh, and one of them gets Eddie. He'll be fine. Also, just another good opportunity to appreciate the great voice acting here.
That's right, you ugly kunyuk! Don't mess with Eddie Rata!
You have got to be kidding me.
Elena, hurry up!
Nate and Elena make their escape through a catacomb tunnel, but now they find themselves in, like, an industrial control room? There's an elevator, but as Nate so eloquently puts it,
Guess the Nazis didn't pay their electric bill.
these two have to split up again because Elena admits it. She doesn't have the parkour skills that Nate does to do the crazy shit in this game to continue on. Fuck this room in particular. Right as you enter, the camera suddenly jars to this Resident Evil-like view, and it totally screws with your directional inputs when taking this jump. Nate finds an old note from Sir Francis and a video showing that the golden statue everyone has been hunting is the source of this curse. It turned all the Spanish treasure hunters into these creatures, and Sir Francis destroyed all the boats and blew the gunpowder to flood the city in an attempt to prevent the statue from ever getting out to the rest of the world. Nate happens upon a room opposite of the one where he left Elena, and now she's captured by Roman and his gang. Nate reunites with Sully during a massive gunfight with Roman's higher tier goons. He tries to catch Sully up on the freaky demon shit that he just saw, but Sully isn't quite buying it yet. Via a secret tunnel in a church, Nate and Sully get the drop on Roman, who has the statue in front of him. But then, just kidding, Roman actually has the drop on them. Navarro convinces Roman to open up the statue, and as you may expect, Roman catches the curse, and Navarro caps him. Yeah, being a dick didn't pay off. You got outsmarted by your subordinate. The gang airlifts the statue on a chopper. Navarro makes his getaway with Elena as his hostage. The creatures begin to tunnel in and Nate has to make his move. He stows away on the flight, but a goon tries to gun him off. But then Elena kicks the goon out of the chopper. Unfortunately, the pilot takes the brunt of the falling goon's gunfire, and everyone conveniently crashes onto an offshore vessel, kicking off the final encounter with Navarro. And it is not great. This sequence of the game turns into Navarro shooting at you while waves of thugs jump in. Kill the thugs and Navarro will run away. Then rinse and repeat, like 3 times, until you finally reach Navarro. And the final fight ends up as a quick time event. Come on, man. Not even the final boss gets a half dose of effort. This was a huge gameplay letdown for being the final climax of the game. Alright, quick Nate, while he's down, kick the gun away. Nate, kick the gun away. Nate, kick the gun.
Elena.
Oh, you fucking dingus! Nate pulls Elena from the wreckage, but what do you know? Navarro still has a gun. With a little quick thinking, Nate nudges the wreckage overboard, which snags Navarro, taking him and the cursed treasure to the watery depths. Nate and Elena get to share a touching moment where she returns the ring he left behind with Sir Francis. And all is romance. Well, at least until Sully steps in for the cockblock.
You two got a funny idea of romantic.
It's worth it though, because he's got a boat full of treasure, so the trio aren't leaving empty-handed. They sail off into the sunset, and that's where the story of Uncharted Drake's fortune comes to an end. Now, before I jump into summarizing my final thoughts on the game, I'm a man who doesn't stop just because the credits roll. I want the 100%. But is it a good experience to set the finish line that far out? Well, Uncharted has 54 trophies on the list, and by the time I finished my first run-through of the story, I had naturally acquired about 15 of them, so there was still a good amount of cleanup to go back to. Also, please bear with me, I don't have the footage of when I collected all the trophies anymore. Just a casual playthrough, so I'm kinda just plugging in footage to fill the void. I'm sorry, I'm still learning my production process. First task was going back to find all 61 relics and treasures hidden throughout the game. Nothing too hard, I mean you can just Google up a guide to find where they're all at. It's just a little tedious. Luckily, all the individual chapters of the game have a treasure counter, so if you miss a few you can narrow down where they're at. In hindsight, it probably would have been more efficient to seek the treasures while I was doing a harder difficulty playthrough anyways, but I don't think life through. There's some kill-based achievements. Trophies. Old habits die hard. This is the bulk of the trophies. Get X amount of kills with this gun, X amount of kills with that gun. Actually, every gun in the game. Melee kills, explosive kills, multi-kills, kills while hanging on a ledge, headshots, kills in a row without dying. All pretty easy, and these tend to rack up over the course of your playtime as well. At its worst, I had to farm on a checkpoint and kill the same guy over and over again for like 50 stealth kills, or use the less common weapons like the grenade launcher, where you probably wouldn't hit the kill total needed just in a regular playthrough. Then we got the speedrun achievements. God damn it! I said it again. Then we got the speedrun trophies that involve either beating parts of or the whole game in a time limit. And my favorite is the Fat and the Furious, where you have to complete a speedrun as Donut Drake, which is where you run around as a comically obese Nate. It actually doesn't even have a time limit. You can take as long as you want to, as long as you keep the fat skin on for the entire ride. Even with the time limits, none of these are too crazy. The time limits are actually very generous, and I got all these on my first try, except for the one that requires beating the entire game under 2.5 hours. It wasn't even because I was too slow. I had like 10 minutes to spare. But it was because I started from the beginning of the game in Chapter Select instead of starting a brand new speedrun campaign from the main menu. So it didn't count. Oh, this pissed me off. The worst part about this speedrun trophy is already dedicating enough time to do a whole nother playthrough. So having to do it twice really made the game start to wear down for me at this point. But on the second go, I had like 20 minutes to spare, so, you know, improvement or whatever. The last hurdle was to beat Uncharted on the highest difficulty. Brutal. Luckily, the difficulty trophies stack, meaning when you beat the game on a higher difficulty, all the trophies related to beating the game on easier difficulties will unlock at the same time. Now here's where this game seriously kicked me in my balls. I had to beat the game on crushing difficulty, the second hardest difficulty, to even unlock brutal difficulty. Holy shit. Between a normal playthrough, a speedrun playthrough that didn't count, and a speedrun playthrough that did, I'd already run through Uncharted's main story 3 times now. And now you're telling me I'm looking at 5 runs? Ass almighty. Alright, so I gave it a try. Started a run on crushing, got to this infamous blue room, and lost my spirits. The game is so much more tedious on higher difficulties, mostly because enemies can just soak up bullets like I'm using airsoft guns. Going back to the drawing board, I realized that Uncharted has tweaks, which are in-game cheats that, here's the best part, don't disable trophies while they're on. Hallelujah, dude. Infinite ammo? Hell yeah. Insta-kill bullets? Fuck it. Need to beat the game on hard to unlock them? So 4th playthrough down, I got the cheats unlocked, and come to find out, you can't use them on difficulty levels that you haven't beat the game on yet. The internet didn't let me down though. I did my research. Load up the game on crushing, go into the menu, change the difficulty to hard. save changes. Activate infinite ammo and insta-kill bullets, save changes. Change difficulty back to crushing, save changes. And boom, I tricked the game into giving me the cheats. Even with these activated, the game was still hard and a pain in the ass to work through. But I made it eventually, and one final trial on Brutal with the same cheat exploit, and the Platinum Trophy was mine. So where does that leave my final thoughts on Uncharted Drake's Fortune? Looking at my fancy rant grading system that's made up on the fly and really doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form, I feel like I want to give Uncharted Drake's Fortune a C+. It was a fine enough game, but didn't exactly blow me away. The visuals on this PS4 remaster were fantastic, and the environments were so pleasant on the eyes, up until the point where the game made everything gray and dank. The main cast are all lovable characters with phenomenal voice acting. The plot is good, nothing specifically wrong with it, but I wasn't too emotionally invested at any point. Kinda by the books, but again, I can't specifically call out any egregious wrongdoings. The gameplay was passable, but the shooting was nothing more than standard fare. Climbing could have used extra attention, and in general, things were frustrating and questionable at multiple points. For the casual player, I don't recommend trying for all the trophies. That made this game overstay its welcome, and I was hating it to the death by the end. For the hardcore gamer, it is doable to 100%. I mean, I did it, but it's not pleasant. I think when people talk high praise and reflect fondly on the Uncharted series, they're referencing the sequels. Nobody ever talks about this first entry, and I think I get why. It's a good game. It's just not an exceptional one. It really does get me excited to try the future games, though. It lays a really good foundation. But as Drake's Fortune stands, play it if you like. I wouldn't try to steer anyone away from it, but you could probably jump into the later games and not feel bad at all about missing out on this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button to see me do other random gaming shit. I love you guys for doing it, and I hope I catch you guys around.